Hi, this is Doreen, and welcome to TimeToPlay.com's Empower Half Hour, our business success podcast. Hi, this is Doreen from the TimeToPlay.com's Empower Half Hour. This is our business success podcast. I repeated that just in case for anybody listening. This Blog Talk Radio studio makes me a little bit crazy every time I'm on. It says on air after it says to start, and I don't know. But anyway, so it doesn't hurt to welcome somebody a second time. So my name is Doreen Guma. I am the founder of the Time to Play Foundation, and we are a 501c3 not-for-profit corporation with the mission and purpose to enrich the lives of others through programs, public awareness outreach activities, events, and learning opportunities that further the concept of enjoying life. Jerry, hello, Jerry. How are you?
I tried to call in, and they told me the host has already called in.
Could you please call in the 646-200-0848 because last week we had to dial in differently. So we're live on the air. So call in 646-200-0848, and that's for anybody listening that they're welcome to call in to join in our discussion as well.
200-0848.
646-200-0848.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay, so Jerry Siegel is actually on his way to call in. He is supposed to be hosting our podcast here for the business success, and Jerry will tell us all about himself shortly. So our goal for this podcast is to look at some ways that we can make a business success. So we know that businesses fail statistically within the first 3 years. And so what is our goal is to not have that happen. So what our goal is to work together, people helping people, to find tips and tools that are helpful for us so that we can be successful in business. Hi, Jerry. Sorry,
Hi,
we'll have to hone in to make this work better next time.
Okay.
So introduce yourself and give people your little bit of a background and all that kind of thing.
My name is Jerry Siegel. My primary business is management coaching, training, and development. We try to help management learn the necessary skills to run their business successfully. And those skills are common for all businesses. Roughly 75-80% of all businesses are identical, regardless of whether they are producing a product, selling a product, or providing services.
Excellent. And as I had said, my name is Doreen Guma. My background's in quality improvement, and this Time to Play Foundation is really a very big quality improvement project. So looking at unemployment statistics, looking at business success, looking at the plight of our business owners, I had asked Jerry if he would be kind enough to help create this podcast. Now, I'm not qualified to, I don't want to say the word teach, but guide, educate on business success. Although we've been a business owner for 10 years, thank God, and we're still functioning. But the concept behind here is something that Jerry has so much knowledge about. So if anybody does also, again, want to call in, 646-200-0848. So, Jerry, our discussion this week is regarding how to be a salesperson. And do you want to explain a little bit about why is that important?
Before we do that, Doreen, I just want to mention that for anybody that's on the podcast, there's a meeting next Wednesday, October 21st, of the New Entrepreneur Group, which is a spin-off of the Long Island Advancement of Small Business, the LIASB. They meet at Delphi in Hauppauge from 6 to 8 p.m. The meeting, it's a closed meeting, but it's open to anybody that is planning to start a business or has just started a business within the past 3 years, or if they're planning to change their job or their career. So if they need any information, they could contact Murray Kleiner at 822-1381. He can provide them with further details, or they could go to the website for LISB, and they could get the information there. As far as what we're talking about today, Doreen, we said that we wanted to talk about the fact that if you're starting a business or if you've just begun a business, one of the first roles that is critical is that of a salesperson. And if you're not willing to be a salesperson, then you really have no reason to start a business unless you possibly have a partner who's going to be that person. Because without customers, without clients, there is no business. Now, many people are uncomfortable in the sales area, and as I said, an option is to find somebody else to do selling for them, but that's not easy, and that could be very expensive. Typically, successful salespeople in large companies often make more than the CEO. So when somebody is starting a business, unless they are willing to play that role, they are going to be setting themselves up for, as you had mentioned, Doreen, the fact that most businesses do not last beyond 6 months to a year or two. So one of the things that it's important to know ahead of time is that in order to become comfortable doing anything, you have to first be uncomfortable. And certainly selling is one of those areas. But selling is primarily trying to determine what the needs are for the prospect. And as I've often heard, and you may have read before or heard, that selling is not telling, it's asking questions. But in regards to setting up the new business, one of the keys is centers of influence. People who might be able to open some doors for you, who might be able to get you to prospects, to meet with them, to be able to talk to people who otherwise would not be willing to take your phone calls or see you, but when somebody that they know suggests that you may have something of value, they may give you a few minutes of their time. So with that said, let me throw it open. Doreen, you have some responses, some other thoughts, some ideas?
Absolutely. So what exactly does it mean to be a salesperson in general? Like, what does that mean in general?
Well, the salesperson needs to be spending the majority of their time trying to obtain business. Now, obtaining business is going to be a process because typically people are not walking into somebody's door and saying, I want to buy whatever it is that you're selling. So that typically the salesman or the saleswoman must be calling, they must be emailing, they must be contacting, they must be attempting to see people in order to help them understand that they have something that they're offering that might benefit themselves or their business. That's going to require a lot of rejection. Selling actually is accepting rejection and accepting the fact that they are not rejecting you as an individual, but they're rejecting your offering. But rejection is hard.
Right, no, understood. There's a lot to it. It's not just, like when you think of salesperson, I'm kind of a little bit older, but you think of like the guy knocking on the door with vacuums, and
right.
This is a little bit different in today's day and age. So, we do have a lot of resources. This education is not just for people on Long Island. Anybody listening, you could be anywhere in the entire world. It's the same type of process, correct? So we
yes.
would want to, we need to package our materials. So sales and education kind of go hand in hand.
Very definitely.
What's your opinion?
In addition to which, sales is going to involve a lot of networking. It's going to involve getting out and meeting people, both people who may be prospects themselves or who may know other people who could be prospects. As I said, somebody you meet at a networking event could wind up being somebody who could allow you to get in the door of a possible prospect. They may know people, and typically the best way to do that in regards to networking is to help somebody else. Because the more you give, the more you get. That's been proven over thousands of years. So what this individual needs to be doing is they need to be uncovering opportunities for the new organization. And
right.
as I said, they need to be able to get in front of decision makers, which is something else that is often very challenging because the decision maker has many responsibilities, him or herself, and typically they do not want to talk to somebody unless they are certain that their time is going to be well spent.
Right. Well, in this I understand. So what is the first step really as a person who needs to sell stuff? Like, how do you put together some type of a plan? And like you said, so that we could also look at a person who is not necessarily feels comfortable to go and speak to somebody else, but that potentially could, partner with somebody or hire somebody if they have enough funding to do so. But what's the first step that a person needs to do in order to figure out how to be successful to get the information out about what they are, what they have, that type of thing? So like starting from kind of square one to a certain extent.
Well, the first step would be to determine who their prospects are. List their prospects. They would be categorized as to A, B, and C, or 1, 2, 3. The best ones, obviously, being in the A's, and those would be the people that the individual would be spending time to get in front of. That might start with an email. It might start with a mailing. It might start with a phone call. But it would be best if it started with an introduction from somebody else. And one of the ways that can be done in today's world is through a service called LinkedIn, which anybody on the podcast, I'm confident, is familiar with, because somebody who's connected to somebody that you might want to meet would be the person to be able to introduce you to that person. Now, LinkedIn does not always allow everybody to see the other person's connections. There is a means and method of preventing people with whom you're connected from seeing your connections. But I would think that the majority of people still allow their connections to be seen by others. So certainly viewing LinkedIn for your contacts would be a way of obtaining other contacts with prospects. And again, probably the best way to do that would be to look at the major centers of influence. And major centers of influence would encompass the organization's accountant, the entrepreneur's attorney, as well as any other organizations that they might be part of, or they may know somebody who leads that organization. That's part of the reason why helping on charity boards can be a big opportunity to get in front of people, to get to know people, and that comes back to the more you give, the more you get.
Right.
You need to. So that would really be the first step would be deciding who it is that I want to see, who it is that I need to talk to, who is it that can utilize my products, my services, or whatever it is that I'm offering as a new business. This would have been part of the business plan that the individual would have put together, which we talked about in last week's podcast.
Right, which I was just going to say, it's something that would be something somebody could go in, look at the on-demand episodes for that, because it was very smart. And Jerry even suggested, everybody has a lack of time, so maybe even just a one page, and there's a lot of templates available, but planning is very important. Identifying the prospects are very important. That's absolutely very true. If you want to open a yoga studio, who are you going to market it to? If you want to open a vacuum cleaning store, are you doing it in a industrial area, or are you doing it in a residential area where people will come? So looking at all different kinds of things, the business plan would be very helpful. Looking at who's the prospects. One of the things that I've noticed with new entrepreneurs, and I'm sure Jerry understands and can attest to that too, because he also runs organizations and groups and networking things, is a lot of times we kind of burn ourselves out in the beginning. You can't go to everything. So that's why creating targets, goals, people that you think would be important to educate about the products and services that you have in order for you to sell to them. How do you pick and choose the right networking things to go to so you don't exhaust yourself? How do you know? What do you need to do for that too? Because again, being a salesperson, you have to really educate yourself so that you could go out and sell your stuff.
Well, certainly those are very important points, Doreen, and what would be done in terms of prioritizing the events that an individual would go to would be where the people that they are looking to meet or where their prospects would be attending. There are a number of trade organizations, depending on whether they're selling to a specific marketplace or if they are more in general with professional services, then they would have a wider range of possibilities. But again, they would want to attend events, if possible, where there were decision makers who were attending. They did not want to be spending their time networking with a lot of other salespeople. Not that couldn't be helpful potentially, but it probably would not be the best use of one's time and effort. So if they could be at an event where there were prospects whose decision makers would attend, that would be the preference. But this would be a matter of sorting through all the events, using the local papers, using the local business paper, who would most likely have a calendar of events, and determining amongst the potential opportunities where to go and where to spend their time. Now, typically, breakfast meetings would be valuable because they're before the business day. They would not be taking time out of the time that could be used to call or to email to contact prospects during the day, but this would be time where they could meet potential opportunities, and therefore both before and after work would be something that the entrepreneur would be needing to do. But one of the things we said last week is that don't expect when you're starting a business that you're going to be working 40 hours a week.
Right.
Because if you're expecting to do that, you're certainly not likely to have the ability to succeed in the business. It's going to require 60, 70 hours a week, certainly initially, until you start to get some traction and you start to generate some clients or customers and therefore some sales before you can possibly start to reduce the number of hours. And by using the prime time when you can get in front of somebody, by saving that and using the off hours, for example, planning and goal setting could be done in the evening. Planning and goal setting does not need to be done during the 9 to 5 basic business day. That's why networking in the morning for breakfast, or networking in the evening for dinner meetings, or meetings after dinner, or events in that 6 to 8 p.m. time frame could be very helpful.
Absolutely, and that's something that's very interesting, because if you do, appointments, or you're taking things in the time when you could actually be making sales calls or other things during the regular business hours, that could be not time the best spent, depending on what is the situation. Gina, are you on the line by any chance, where you can physically
Yes,
speak?
I am.
Oh my gosh, I've been going, Gina, are you there? Are you there? Like, oh my gosh. So you've been sitting there very quiet for goodness gracious. Tell me what your opinion is, because you're out there pounding the pavement too a bit.
I'm listening, and I am absorbing everything that you're saying, because you never know enough, and you always want to learn more. So at least that's the way I approach things in life. No matter how much you're out there and doing things, there's always something you can do a little bit better that you can learn from someone else. So I think I always try to observe what others are doing, and see if that's something I am doing, and or if it's what's working for me, what's not working for me. Because what Jerry was saying, where you want to put your time and where you want to focus, that's very important, and you don't want to necessarily or unnecessarily use up your valuable time on things that are not going to be useful in networking and building business. I'm actually involved in a networking community, and we meet every week, and we foster relationships, which are the most important thing that I can say in being a salesperson. You're involved in building relationships with all the people that you're meeting on a day-to-day basis, whether or not you're going to be doing direct business with that person, and or building a relationship to the point where they feel trust in you, and you feel trust in them, and where they can refer you to other people, let's say a friend or a family member that may be in need of service. What do you think about that, Jerry?
Well, that's very, very definitely, Gina, because, again, effective use of time is one of the critical components for success in any endeavor, particularly in sales, because regardless of how adept any salesperson is, at best they may wind up with a success ratio somewhere in the 20 to 30% vicinity, which means that out of every 10 people that they see, they may be successful in actually closing 2 or 3, but closing those 2 or 3 may take 2, 3, 4 meetings before that happens.
Absolutely agreed. Absolutely agreed. I'm looking at something right now and smiling as you say that, because in the networking group that we have, we went over these, sales stats, and the fortune is in the follow-up. And it's just a cute little thing that really lays out like how much follow-up, how important follow-up is, rather. In your first greeting, 2% of sales might be made in your first contact, whereas 5% of sales are made on the third contact, and approximately 80% of your sales are made with between that 7th and 12th contact of that person, so that you're not going to necessarily just meet someone and it's going to turn into sales right away. It's the nurturing of that relationship and the follow up, and maybe a weekly meeting or a weekly phone call or an email or a lunch date, or just different ways to reach out and keep contacting those people, so that you build that rapport and that trust, and then you have something that really blooms and blossoms into referral business.
Oh, that's definite.
I want to go back. I want to go back a little bit further. When we started this, and the description of this call or podcast this day is regarding, if you're not willing to be a salesperson, nothing else matters. So how can we lose the fear, maybe? Because that's one of the biggest things. Like if you Google public speaking, people would rather die. It's not even kidding, Google it, than speak in public. So how do you lose a fear that might be prohibiting you from being able to successfully market your business? What's the first step that we do, firstly, and also secondly, how much time should a salesperson potentially spend, looking for business? Like how does that kind of give us some tips and tools for that?
Well, the best way to overcome the fear is to face the fear. Because, as I said previously, in order to become comfortable doing anything, you must first be uncomfortable. So that recognize that initially it's going to be taking you out of your comfort zone, but unless you're willing to get there, and that means that you're willing to potentially embarrass yourself with something that you inadvertently said or did or communicated verbally or non-verbally, then you're not going to have the ability to overcome and get past that fear. Again, it's important to recognize that success is built on failure. You're going to succeed, you're going to fail. It's part of the process. It's perfectly okay. And that the first time you're at a networking event, certainly it may be very difficult for you to start talking to people. But one of the best ways to do it is just to ask them, how can I help you? And let them do the talking.
See, that's a really good opening. Hi, I'm Doreen. How can I help you? Maybe that's kind of a neat idea because that's breaking the ice. It's not I know that also very big is this 30-second elevator speech. That's also another thing to figure out how to make that happen, how to start that, how to build it appropriately and successfully. Gina, do you have one?
I think that's perfect because you need to first build your value. And in building your value, in helping others, that's how you build your value. That's how you build your trust, your integrity. And not that you go out to help others to get back, but what you give out does come back triple-fold. So not that that's the reason you do such things, but it does come back. And you do need to help others, and they will remember that. They will remember you, and you will be first in their mind come time that they do need to refer your type of business.
In addition, when you take interest in others, they're going to be more interested in you, and typically after you have asked somebody, what do you do, and how can I help you, they're going to turn around after they've given their 30-second or their short elevator speech and ask you, what do you do?
Right, absolutely.
One of the biggest things that I've experienced during any type of networking thing or meeting people is you have to listen to the other person and you have to hear what they're saying. I've experienced a lot of times where you go to a thing and the person doesn't really care what you are or who you are. They just want to sell you their stuff. So I think that that's something also just to be aware of. What Jerry and Gina are speaking, that it's so important to establish a trust in a relationship and, follow up too, by the way. That's something important. But one of the things, like I said, I've found there's I don't know, the thing that comes to my mind is like a bulldog in a china cabinet. Like, the person comes and they're like knocking down all the china, just spewing out all the stuff that they do, but you also have to be interested in the other people.
Yes.
I love to learn what people do. Like I was at a business-to-business expo the last week, and the first question I ask is the people will come up and they'll be like, what do you do? I'm like, no, tell me about you first. So I want to know, what does this person do? What is their needs too? It makes things a little bit more important, I think. So,
I think if I can interject here, Doreen, just for quickly and say that the entrepreneur need to not expect that they are going to make any sales at a networking event. That doesn't happen. I'm not saying it never happens, because we never say never, but for all intents and purposes, it is not going to take place. But as Gina has suggested, you're going to be opening the door to a relationship which subsequently may lead to what you're after.
Absolutely.
That's
I just say it's very important with the relationship building aspect of it. I think that's a really strong basis for your networking and for your business and for your salesmanship. I think it shouldn't really be about you initially. It really should be about the other person, and I think the rest comes behind. The rest will come if you go out seeking, to make relationships and meet people and really maybe help them out in referring other people to them. The relationship will build and foster, and it will bloom.
That's very good advice. And last thing because we are an Empower Half Hour, but one last thing that I wanted to ask your guys' suggestions for people that might be new at this. What about follow-up? What is your suggestion? How is that recommended for a person to follow up? What is the timetable for follow-up? How do people follow up?
Well, following up is critical, as Gina mentioned before, and following up a meeting in the morning with an email later that day, simply saying it was nice to meet you and I'd like to schedule some additional time to speak further about how we might help each other, would be an easy way to ensure or to attempt to ensure that you're going to have the ability to meet with that person again.
Very interesting. I kind of like that. Repeat that one more time, Jerry.
Surely. If you meet somebody at a networking event in the morning, sending them an email later on in the day saying it was nice to meet you and speak briefly. I'd like to schedule another time where we could talk a little bit more extensively about how we might be able to help each other in our respective businesses. And
help
once
each
again,
other. Very
nice. Help each other. Yes, you're always coming from point of view that it's not about you. It's about us, and that is very important.
I like that. That really is very useful information. So let's close out this day's educational program here. I think it's very valuable. So what is, to sum up, getting our business started and being this quote-unquote salesperson, what is our first step, and how are we hitting the ground running, leaving this call right now?
Well, our first step is to know who we are targeting and know that we're going to experience a lot of discomfort initially. We're going to experience discomfort. We're going to experience rejection. It's part of the process, but it's something that we need to be willing to face and to overcome if we're going to accomplish our goals. And those goals need to be set out in front of us before we begin. But again, recognize that without a sale, nothing takes place. Without a customer or client, there is no business. So when you're starting a business, when you're beginning, you must have some way of obtaining that sale.
It's very smart.
Yep.
And Gina?
My broker always says we must fail forward. So there you go in a nutshell. So you always want to take what you're going to fail out and learn something from it and move forward and make improvements every day. So I think that's a good thing to think about.
Be
prepared to
smart.
fail. If you are going to succeed, you're going to fail, and it's perfectly okay. But unfortunately, that wasn't what we were taught. So we need to change the attitude that we have, because most people look at failure as a bad thing, and typically, when you're starting out something new, failure is a good thing.
Absolutely.
I appreciate so get those lists going and get our priorities going and figure out who is our prospects. Jerry's ABC or 1, 2, 3 levels, and let's rock, right? Let's get our business success going on. So I appreciate your guys' time and expertise today, and if anybody has any questions, we're always available. Please email info@timetoplay.com or give us a call at 631-331-2675. Tell us what you need. We do have a Business Success podcast next Tuesday at noon as well. And thank you guys so much for being part of this. And Jerry and Gina, I'd like to talk to you guys offline so we can, become a business education success as well. So thank you very much, and have a wonderful week.
Thanks, Doreen.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Oh, and check out timetoplay.com for anybody that would like some more information about the foundation and what we have to offer people helping people. That's our motto. Thank you. Bye-bye.